we now have our Linux machine set up. We have the .NET 10 SDK installed, and we've installed VS Code with a C# dev kit in order to build our C# projects. But not everyone wants to use VS Code to work with C#. So as developers, we really like alternatives, and a great alternative is JetBrains Rider. JetBrains Rider will work on Windows, Mac, and Linux in basically the same way. So in this video, we're going to install Ryder. We're going to configure it to get the new updates. We're going to tweak some settings, and we'll discuss the cost to operate Ryder. Now, this video is part of a series dedicated to developing C# applications on Linux. Along the way, we'll gain a better knowledge of how Linux works and how to make our apps truly cross-platform. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel to stay informed of new episodes as they come out. And if you're looking for even more .NET, SQL, and AI training, go to IamTimCorey.com. Okay, let's jump over to our Linux machine, and we're going to jump right into our browser. Again, I've chosen Edge, but you can choose whatever browser you want. And we're going to go to JetBrains.com. And here, we're going to, sure, we'll accept the cookies. We're going to go to Products, and we could choose Ryder, but we're going to actually choose the Toolbox app. Now, the Toolbox app allows us to install Ryder in a way that can then keep it updated. So notice it's already got the selected download for the tar file for us. So let's hit download. Once that downloads, we're going to hit open file, and we're going to extract. And let's extract this right to our home folder. We'll keep the directory structure. So we'll hit extract. Let's hit show files. We can close out of this other one. We can actually close out of, or let's minimize our browser at least. So now we have this bin directory, and in here we have what we need to execute the toolbox. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to right click and say open in terminal. That's the way I typically do it. That takes us right to the right spot. Notice we have this whole this whole ID code or version number of a toolbox. That's always a pain to type out in your terminal, but this way you can just go right to it. And now we can also double click here, but either way you can say /JetBrains-toolbox as well. Either way, we can execute our JetBrains toolbox. This way it gives us in the terminal so you can kind of see what's happening. Okay, so now we got the toolbox open. We can say agree to the user agreement, and we're not going to send anonymous usage statistics. We are English. Let's choose our region here. I'm in Americas, so let's choose that, and we'll hit start. Now, in here, we can install all the tools that are available for Linux. We can install right from this toolbox. And you can search through, and there's quite a few tools that JetBrains puts out. And there's Ryder right there, or you can come up here to search and just type Ryder. When you do, you get, of course, the all products pack and the .ultimate pack, but you just get Ryder right here. Notice it says free for non-commercial use. We'll talk more about licensing in a minute, but go ahead and hit install on this. Wait for it. There we go. Now it's downloading. So now this is downloading. It's going to take a little bit to download, not too bad, because my internet is fairly fast. But I do want to point out real quick, if you go back over here to products, go to Ryder, and we look at pricing. So it says Ryder non-commercial is free. That's what we'll be using. Now, just like VS Code, we have to sign in order to get that license. It's still licensed, but the license is free as long as we're using it for non-commercial use. What is non-commercial use? They explain it: for learning, self-education, open source contributions without earning commercial benefits, any form of content creation, and hobby development. So that's what they're defining. And of course, there's a full legal agreement here about what that means. But that's the basics of this. They also get AI for free, or AI free is included. And there is anonymous data collected for basically the payment for using this for free. So that's the free non-commercial version. There is also the commercial version, individuals, individuals, it's $169 per year. Now, the second and third year get cheaper because you've already paid the initial upfront price, and then you get a discount for continuing in the plan. That's kind of their way of keeping you going. Or this is $169 for just Ryder, or you can get the Ultimate pack, which is 7 tools, and that's $219. That's probably the better deal between the two, because if you're using Ryder for C# work, you're probably going to find value in some of the other tools. And let's just look at what the Ultimate tools include. So it includes ReSharper for C++. So ReSharper you use in Visual Studio. And then, which if using Visual Studio, then that's going to be a benefit. Of course, if we're just on Linux, which I don't necessarily expect everybody to be just on Linux, but if you're just on Linux, then that won't be as much of a benefit. But you do get Ryder, which of course that's $169 normally. But then you get .trace, .cover, and .memory. So my mouse has been doing some weird stuff here today. Anywho, so those 3 things right there give you some additional value in tracking down problems, in identifying memory issues, checking for test coverage, etc. That might be a value. And the difference here isn't that much money. It's $50 difference. And of course, as you stay in the plan, it goes down to $131 a year as opposed to $100 a year. So you're paying about $30 more a year after the first year. So that could be of value. Just pointing that out there. But again, we're using the free version. We will have to have an account, and that will require us to log in. Otherwise, it's a 30-day free trial. So we've got Ryder installed. Let's go ahead and launch it. And I'm going to say, you know what? Don't send statistics. Now, I'm going to not import the settings from VS Code. It's up to you if you want to import the settings you already have in VS Code. I'm going to skip that, skip the import. Now, here's where your preferences come in. We've got dark theme and light theme, and they can choose which dark theme you like. Do you like the Ryder dark theme? Do you like the Visual Studio dark theme? Do you like the Virtual Assist or the IDEA dark themes? I'm going to stick with the Visual Studio just because if you notice, especially for on camera, I think that this pops out a little bit better than this. It's also a little bit more washed out on camera. So I just prefer this because of, again, I'm doing it on camera. And continue. Now, key map. Which key mapping do you want? These are Visual Studio shortcuts. So if you're used to Visual Studio and you want to have those same shortcuts, then this is probably the one you want to choose. If you are in the IDEA or JetBrains marketplace and you use the other IDEA products, well, then maybe you want the JetBrains IDE shortcuts. I'm going to choose VS Code. And the reason why is I do like some of the things in VS Code. For example, go to definition F12, really love that as opposed to Control B or Control G. Just F12 is so simple. Debug, F5, love that, love it. And then search, F1, I like that a lot instead of Shift or Control T or whatever. I really like the VS Code shortcuts. I think that Microsoft, when they went back and created VS Code, they learned from Visual Studio and said, hey, let's not do some of those crazy shortcut paths. Let's make things a little simpler for the most important things. Because if you notice, especially in Visual Studio, you get a lot of like Control RR, Control Shift B. Don't love those things. Alt F5, come on. So I really like the simple shortcuts for the most important things you're doing. That's why I'm going to choose VS Code. Again, up to you which one you choose. Now, do you want some plugins? These are the featured plugins. So if you want the AI Assistant, if you want IDEA Vim, if you want the Azure Toolkit for Ryder, or if you want AWS Toolkit, Heap Allocation Viewer, whatever. We're going to continue without plugins. We're not going to install any plugins for now. And that's it. So now we've got Ryder installed. Let's go ahead and close this one out, and we'll just minimize these others. In fact, you know what? Let's just let's close out of no, I'll leave the toolbox open for me. I want to come back to that. So we have now Ryder is 25.3.3 is the version. We can do a new solution here. And if we do, let's just choose, sure, home Tim, Ryder projects, and we'll say console app 1. The format, I want the SLNX format. And it's .NET 10, C#. We have C#, F#, and VB as our options. And we're going to leave everything else the same. Now notice we also have class library, web, and extension services unit tests. This is a pretty standard what you can do inside of Linux when it comes to Ryder. So let's hit create. And now we have our Ryder application. Notice it's starting a lot of other stuff like, hey, you want to install .NET Ultimate. What's new in Ryder? Cool. And then down here, you're going to see we're on the trial. So you click that. It says, hey, you've got 30 days left in your trial, which that's the commercial version. But I want to say free for learning and hobby. And it's going to say, okay, what are you using it for? I want to do content creation. That's for me, but you would say learning and self-education potentially. So log in or register. I'm going to log in. And what I do is going to come to the login page. I'll log in using my email address and my password. Just a minute here while I type this out. And now authorization successful. You can close this page out. And if we come back here, I agree to the non-commercial use and start non-commercial use. So now we are signed in with non-commercial use for Ryder. This is what it looks like. Now, this is rather small for the camera, so I'm going to make a change there. So let's pull up the settings, which is Control comma, by the way. Now I can also, if I didn't want to do it using a shortcut, I can come up here to the main menu and say settings. So either way. And then in here, right under appearance, which you can also type zoom. If you type zoom, it's going to highlight, which I really like this highlight. So when you go and you say, hey, these are things that have zoom in them, but it highlights which thing is zoom. Which interesting, that doesn't say zoom, but what it's doing is zooming, which is great. But here for zoom, I'm going to say 150%. So that gives us a much bigger view. You can actually probably read the text now a little bit better. You can do Control plus to make your font size bigger. I'll reset that. But there you go. So you can do Control plus and Control minus. But if you notice, when I do that, it makes the text here bigger, but not over here, not on the left, which is a little bit frustrating that that's the standard way of doing things. Because yes, this is probably the most important text, but you kind of need to know how to see these things. And that's something that that companies don't do a great job of. We have to kind of expand these out to otherwise solution gets hidden. So, anywho, that's kind of the tweak we're going to make there. You can also click on this to make it go away. The gutter, I don't love the gutter because it's kind of huge for this font size, but that's okay. We've got enough screen real estate now to actually build something. If we want to run this, let's just do another console write line and say this is from Ryder. And we hit run. Let's launch it. Wait for it. Build successful. Hello world, this is from Ryder. There we go. So we're good to go. We have Ryder working now. So that's all there really is to installing JetBrains Rider. We've tweaked a couple settings, but the important thing here is the fact that we used it through this toolbox because this toolbox can get updates. So if there's other updates, you can get them. If you want to uninstall your product, you can also get other products if you if you want to, but this will allow us to get new updates. You can install just the tar file. You can get the tar file for just Ryder and then copy it wherever you want and install it manually yourself if you want, but then you can't get updates as easily. You get updates, but what happens is those updates then are put in a separate folder. So you can have side-by-side launches, which you can do with Toolbox. But it's a little bit cleaner this way because you're always launching the latest version and not making a whole mess of things. Okay, so I'm going to close out of that Toolbox. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click here and say Pin to Panel. So now when I close out of Ryder, are you sure you want to exit? Yes, it's still there. So that's one thing. If you want, you can search for Toolbox. And if you want to pin Toolbox somewhere, that's, again, what's going to be necessary for updating your version. So in any event, that is JetBrains Rider. Again, currently version 2025.3.3. Whatever the latest version is fine. And then make sure if you come in here, there's also going to be checking for updates, I believe, every once in a while. I thought I saw earlier an update pop up, but keep it up to date. It's going to alert you when new updates come through, new plugin updates, etc. So that's it for JetBrains Rider. Let me know your preferences, whether you prefer Ryder versus VS Code's C# Dev Kit. We'll probably do a bit of both throughout this process just because I want you to get comfortable with both. I really do like the idea that we have an IDE that works cross-platform so that you get comfortable using it and you can use it no matter where you go. If you're on your Mac, if you're on your Windows machine, if you're on a Linux machine, it works pretty close the same way. And you get comfortable in that, which means that you're not spending time thinking about your editor. Because at the end of the day, whether you like Ryder or C# Dev Kit or we like full VS, Visual Studio, it doesn't really matter as long as what it does is gets out of the way. Because the whole point of development is not to tweak and play and fuss with your editor. The whole point of your editor is to get out of the way and allow you to build code faster. So whatever helps you do that and gets out of the way, use that. Now, if you find yourself saying, well, I like this because I'm always tweaking and changing things, maybe you're doing the wrong thing because that's not the point of being a developer, is to tweak your IDE. The point of being a developer is to be faster at actually doing good development. And that's where, again, we have some problems with AI right now is makes us faster, but not necessarily better. That's a whole side topic. So this is JetBrains Rider running on Linux. What we're going to do next is install Docker so we can start installing things like SQL Server and other things in a way that's not going to disrupt or cause problems with our Linux installation. Okay, so until then, practice this, try this, figure it out, and let me know what you think. C# Dev Kit versus Ryder. This is not a holy war. This is not a fight. This is personal preference. Let me know. All right. Thanks for watching. And as always, I am Tim Corey.